Hello friends, this is a very, very exciting video because I'm going to go into the scaling roadmap, which is going to change the game for you potentially if you are an e-commerce brand who is looking to scale to $1 million in annual revenue and beyond. This is how you do it. This is all of the learnings that I have earned through working with 40 plus different brands around the world, millions of dollars in Shopify revenue, and this is the pattern that I see again and again around the brands that have this right and the brands that grow. So today we are just going to go through this step by step. I'm going to talk you through what each of these areas means and what you basically need to do to you need to get these right, and view this as basically a set of dominoes that if you knock all of these down in a row, then the most likely outcome is that your brand will grow. So step one is that you have to identify key constraints. So if you've been running your business for any period of time with paid advertising or anything like that, you're doing all this stuff, you're getting traffic to your online store, you're going to have a whole bunch of data which is going to show you where customers are appearing in your sales funnel, where they are falling off, where things just aren't happening. In every business, there is going to be a key constraint, which is basically the ceiling of your growth. No matter how hard you push, if you spend another $10,000 a month on advertising, you still will not experience the growth that you're after. You can hustle and bustle and try everything, but until you fix this fundamental constraint, the rest of the business can't grow. So you need to identify your key constraints. The way that we do this is with a comprehensive performance audit. Now, this is something that I offer personally as a free service. If you're a YouTube subscriber, if you're subscribed to our ecom Money Monday newsletter, then you can get this audit for free. This is a comprehensive audit. We usually charge $800 for this. So if you want that audit, we will help you find out your key constraint in your business, and I'll put the link in the description. So you need to figure that out. Next is that you need to identify your ideal customer. So if you're doing less than $1 million in revenue, you only really have one core customer. You should not be trying to sell to multiple different types of customers, because this confusion, this segmentation is just going to dissipate your core messaging, your advertising, your offers. You're going to be spread too thin. So the next step is that you need to identify your ideal customer. So instead of just focusing on superficial demographics, which is what most people do, they think, I'm going to sell to women who are aged, 35 to 54, blah, 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 blah. You need to focus on the job to be done. And the job to be done is the unifying outcome that this person, your ideal customer, wants to achieve. So for example, if you are selling, let's say, protein powder or supplements, the job to be done is that you want to, let's say, grow, get fit or eat clean or, supplement certain nutrients to support a healthy lifestyle. Whatever it is, there's a certain outcome in your customer's head that they are looking for, and your brand, your product becomes the means to that end. So any customer with that need and that desire now becomes your ideal customer. And then the next part of that is, are you going to sell heaven or are you going to sell hell? And what I mean by that is, are you going to focus on the more aspirational approach? And a good example of this is, like, let's say luxury car brands. They're all about selling the heaven. They're all about selling this aspirational outcome. The successful man. He's got the lady on his arm. He's feeling powerful. He's feeling he's elevating his status. He feels better than other people because he drives this car. And so brands will often appeal to the heaven part of it with certain product categories. And other product categories, they're appealing to health, which is more, how do I move away from pain and avoid this problem from happening? So a good example of this would be, let's say, skincare. Skincare would be a good example. Let's say like clinical skincare that's more focused on treating like acne and pigmentation, stuff like that. A great approach, and a lot of skincare brands do this, is they focus on, avoiding getting rid of the problem. This is something you want to avoid. And so you need to decide, is your brand going to be more focused on heaven, which is the aspirational ideal outcome, or is it going to be focused on the hell, which is avoiding the problem, avoiding the pain, getting the problem solved so that they can move on? So that's ideal customer. The next part of this is that you need to identify key competitors and examples. And these two sort of go hand in hand, because the more awareness you have of your competitors and how they are selling, if they're selling the same product as you in the same area, the same location, to the same market, you can draw inspiration from their approach to marketing. So, you might look at some different competitors, different comparable brands that customers would compare you to, and you would see, oh, okay, like they're actually using much more aspirational imagery. So for nutrition, for example, it might be, okay, they're really focusing on like the key benefits, the feeling, I feel good, a good mood, sleeping well, this sort of thing. And so these are insights that I can draw from and lean from my competitors. So putting all of these examples together and capturing, the selling strategy and the approach of different brands can really push you forward and help accelerate, the approach, how you would advertise, what sort of phrasing are they using on the landing pages, what do their email flows look like. Instead of reinventing the wheel, look at what your competitors are doing, gather the insights, and go from there. The next part of this is money math. So the money math is a really crucial part of the scaling roadmap, because if you don't get this right, you are going to basically shoot yourself in the foot. So the big thing here is that you've got to nail it before you scale it. So the money math is about figuring out, is your brand actually profitable? Do you have profit margins that are conducive with a growing brand? If your gross profit margins are below 50%, the chances of you being able to scale is basically zero. And so, that now becomes your key constraint. If your profit margins are too low, it basically means you have very little breathing room. You have very little room for error in terms of customer acquisition. The costs you can pay to acquire a customer becomes much less. It is much harder to scale a brand where the economics, the model itself, does not work. So with the money math part, we have a KPI spreadsheet, a target sheet, where we look at the last 12 months of sales. We look at all of your different KPIs, and then we look at month to month the seasonality of sales over that period of 12 months to figure out, realistically, what sort of KPIs do we need to be hitting? What sort of performance do we need to be hitting? And is this realistic? What sort of return on ad spend can we reasonably expect to hit these sorts of targets? And then month to month, what sort of sales do we need to be going for? Let's say you did 500,000 in the last 12 months and you're going for $1 million, that's a double. And so if you project that out based on seasonality, there's going to be ebbs and flows and differences in the month-to-month sales targets. And then based on your profitability, your profit margins, how much do you need to spend, or what sort of return on ad spend do you need to be hitting those monthly sales targets? So that's the money math part. That is the economics and the money math of your business. Make sure the math is mathing. The next part of this is offer architecture. So now, once we've had a look at these 4 different areas, we've got a bit more understanding around how the fundamentals of the business and how this is going to work. So the next part of this is getting the offer architecture correct. Now, this is all about maximizing customer lifetime value, and also decreasing the cost to acquire a customer. So a few things to think about here, and we sort of have a process that we go through looking at, which type of offers do we need to make at specific strategic times to acquire customers, to get repeat purchases, retention offers, reactivation offers, upsells, bundling, cross-selling, product add-ons, post-purchase offers, all that sort of thing, to basically make sure that we can get as much value from customers as possible, and also put offers into the market that people are going to respond to on the front end and become paying customers. So that's the offer architecture part. And in later videos, I'll discuss, how we go about that and how we figure out your model. So the money model that you're working to, and what sort of business you have, and then how we can set up offers which are going to complement that and maximize customer lifetime value. So that's phase 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Foundation. Once we've knocked all those dominoes over, then we're going up to phase 2, which is the setup. So this next stage is technical setup. And this is basically, if you haven't already, you set up all of your marketing accounts, your pixels, your data sets, your tracking, Google Merchant Center, Google Ads, Meta Ads, all that sort of stuff, email marketing accounts, all that sort of thing, and then install all that tracking onto your website. Now, the reason that we suggest and recommend doing this first is that it's going to be a period of time before you get these other things done. And in the meantime, if you've got traffic going to your website, you might as well be capturing that traffic on your ad pixels and tracking so that you can retarget those people later. So you want to do that technical setup next. And again, we have a step-by-step of how you would go about doing that. And then the next part is a big part of this, which is conversion-ready website. So your website, if you get an audit conducted by us, basically it audits your website across a few different areas. And those key areas are your messaging. So what you're communicating on your website, where you're communicating it, what sort of message you are sending to first-time visitors. Do they understand it? Is it easy to, understand what it is that you offer? So that's messaging. The next part is organization. So navigational flow, the way your website is set out, does it make sense? Is there too much clutter? Is it overwhelming? Does the search function work well? Does your main menu make sense? Are products categorized correctly? So that's all about the flow and the structure of your website. The next part of this is design. So MOD, design. And this is just, your styling, your fonts, your color choices, the aesthetics. Does it reflect your brand well? Are you creating the right sort of like feeling and association with your website? Does it look good? Does it look excellent? And then the last part of this is speed. So does your website load quickly? Something as simple as improving your site speed from, let's say you do a speed test at 6 seconds and then you get that down to 3 seconds, can massively improve your conversion rate and your sales. And so that's a big part of it too. So we look at those sort of 4 distinctive areas. Then we look at your key landing pages and figure out, okay, your home page. This is where people are going. What do we need here? What do we need to tell the customer? What sort of products do we want to give visibility to? How do we want to order things? What information do we need to provide to the customer before they can make a purchasing decision? So it's just going through and ticking through all these boxes. That's why doing this stage here in Foundation is so important, is looking at your key competitors and different examples to figure out how are my competitors structuring their website. Why is that? Why have they got this thing above the fold with this sort of messaging? Why are they promoting these specific products as opposed to these other ones? And so you're drawing all of these learnings together, and then you're implementing that onto your conversion ready website. So that's a big part of it. To be fair, without assistance, that can take a lot of time. We've done a lot of website builds and reskins and stuff like that, designing key landing pages. But there is plenty of resource out there about that. In later videos, we'll be breaking down, different checklists, how to audit your website, what to look for, what key elements to include, what key sections to include. So that is very, very important, because that's basically the foundation of all future marketing activities for your e-commerce store. Very important to get right. The next part of this is email flows. So if you do not have any email flows set up, you are making a huge mistake. This is before paid ads and email marketing. You need to have essentially, I would say 3 core flows and then 1 other flow as a bonus, which can really help drive conversion. So the first one is your welcome series. You need to have an incentivized pop-up on your website, which captures an email address and offers some sort of incentive. So it might be, this is back to your offer architecture. This is your front end offering, but typically it's going to be like 10 to 20% off your first purchase, free gift with purchase, free shipping, something like that, just to drive engagement and get people interested in your products and give them that extra nudge to get them across the line. So welcome series, then you've got your abandoned cart flow, which is, very obviously just if people add products to their cart, then you can send them an email, usually within like 30 to 60 minutes saying, hey, did you forget something? This is this. And then you can send them a flow of emails after that. I would recommend not adding an additional discount or incentive on those first few emails, maybe on email like 5 or beyond. I mean, you can send like a series of 10 emails. Some brands have like 10 abandoned cart emails. I would recommend at very least you have 2 or 3. The first 2 are just reminders, and then the third one can be some sort of incentive to get them across the line. And then the last flow is similar, which is a browse abandonment. So this is people that are just browsing your store, viewing products, and this is going to capture those products and send them an email saying, hey, we saw you were interested in these products. And that's going to be another flow of its own. So those are the 3 core flows, and then that's closest to the money. And then the last flow is your post-purchase, which is a thank you email, a series of emails saying, thank you from the founder. This is what you can expect. These are some more customer reviews, and just helping frame the experience for the customer before they receive their product, and then also capturing customer reviews once they've had a chance to use that too. So, as you can see, most people want to run to paid ads and email marketing. They think their paid ads are broken, but actually there's a whole range of other problems that they have not solved, which is why their paid ads are not as profitable as they would like to be. So once you've done all of this, then you can move to paid ads. And I'm not saying you have to do, stop your paid ads while you're doing this work. You can continue doing paid ads, but whatever work you do here is going to have a huge impact on the performance of your paid advertising and your email marketing. Because if your conversion rate goes from, let's say, 3 to 3.5%, then you've basically increased your sales by that amount. And so any paid advertising that you're driving through the site is going to become more profitable, because the same volume of people might be clicking, but a higher percentage of them are converting. So your return on ad spend is going to go up. Your CPA is going to come down. If your average order value goes up, then your CPA is going to come down. Your return on ad spend is going to increase. So all of these things are intertwined and have a very real impact on growth. So the last part of this is paid ads and email marketing. So paid ads, we have a whole course on how to run paid ads, specifically Meta ads, but also Google. Those are the 2 main channels. If you have a brand on ecom, you want to be on either 1 or 2 of those, based on what sort of offering you have. And the key here is knowing your numbers. So this goes back to the money math. If you know your numbers, and you know how much you can afford to pay for a customer, then it de-risks your paid advertising, because you know, okay, cool, I can't afford to spend more than this per customer. So if I'm running an ad and it isn't hitting that target, then I'll go ahead and turn that off. Equally, if you have a target ROAS, top level ROAS, return on ad spend, and you're running paid ads, and let's say, it's halfway through the month and your return on ad spend is just killing it. Let's say your target ROAS was like 600% total. So that's total top line revenue divided by ad spend. And you're doing like a 1,000%, which is a 10x return on ad spend. Then for that month, okay, cool, we can really push the spend. The market's hot. Let's strike while the iron's hot. And really maximize this period. So anything you do here, again, is going to massively affect how well you can run paid advertising. Obviously, there's a whole methodology to paid ads, but really the simplest part is, how much money am I making for every dollar spent on ads? And is this within the targets that I know I must achieve based on my money math? The next part of this, and a big part of this, is creative. User-generated content, high-quality statics, product imagery, which comes from here usually. If you've done all that other work, then producing content and having that steady pipeline of content to test, and different copy angles based on your ideal customer, inspired by different competitors and examples, is really going to help make this happen for you. And then the last part of this is email marketing. So quite frankly, most people neglect this. The fix to this is that you need to send emails more often, more frequently to your list. You need to monetize the crap out of your email list if you can. You need to provide, informational, educational content. Let's say, for example, it's like a health foods product, recipes, like nutritional facts, helpful facts about diet, nutrition, all that sort of stuff. That can be massive in terms of driving revenue, because it becomes another touch point, and it just grows the trust that people have in your brand, because you're seen as like an expert, someone who wants to help them hit their goals. Coming back to this, heaven or hell. We're selling the heaven. This is how you do it. These are the meals you make. And it keeps you top of mind. If you're a regular brand, I would recommend sending out anywhere between 2 to 4 email campaigns every single month, no matter how big your email list is. I don't care if it's 500 people or 30,000 people. You can create specific segments and send campaigns to them as well, specifically based on different issues. But I would say for most brands that are doing under $1 million, sending out 2 to 4 email campaigns a month is going to be the sweet spot, where you might have some educational stuff, then once a month you might have some sort of offering, and then you might have some sort of product highlight, and then another educational email. So just setting that sort of cadence. But the most important thing is to just do it. So this is something we've helped many different brands with, is creating their email, that campaign content, setting up that cadence, and actually getting those emails sent out, which is really, really crucial. So that is a lot of information, but this is just a top level overview on how this whole thing works. If you've got all these dominoes in place, then the most likely outcome is that you're going to experience growth. Now, this is something that we've implemented for many different brands. We have generated many millions of dollars in Shopify revenue using this framework. If this is something you'd like to talk to me about, then you can send an email to hello@pique.pro and get in touch for a free audit. This is a non-obligation audit, which you can then, implement yourself, or we can have a further discussion around getting some help with some of these key parts in the process. Other than that, hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully this gives you a bit of confidence and a process to follow. I'm going to be releasing a whole bunch more videos around this, and going through each of these different areas in much more explicit detail. But for today, this is just an overview, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.